So a lot of people are upset about the AP African American Studies course that Governor Ron DeSantis would not allow to be taught in Florida. Well, you heard the official narratives about that and how, hey, Ron DeSantis is, look what he's doing and oh, he just don't want black people to learn black history. So we got a chance to look at the curriculum and also why Ron DeSantis had actually blocked that particular AP course, because it's not your regular course, it's an AP course, advanced placement course, right? Let's go ahead on and listen to Ron DeSantis and why he said he blocked it. And then we'll follow behind that with a clip, like I said, of me just kind of going through some things and sharing with you what I didn't like about it. Let's go roll that.
State of Florida, our education standards not only don't prevent, but they require teaching black history, all the important things. That's part of our core curriculum. This was a separate course on top of that for advanced placement credit. And the issue is we have guidelines and standards in Florida. We want education, not indoctrination. If you fall on the side of indoctrination, we're going to decline. If it's education, then we will do. This course, so when I heard it didn't meet the standards, I figured, yeah, they may be doing serious. It's way more than that. This course on black history, what's one of the lessons about? Queer theory. Now, who would say that an important part of black history is queer theory? That is somebody pushing an agenda on our kids. And so when you look to see they have stuff about intersectionality, abolishing prisons, that's a political agenda. And so that's the wrong side of the line for Florida standards. We believe in teaching kids facts and how to think, but we don't believe they should have an agenda imposed on them. When you try to use black history to shoehorn in queer theory, you are clearly trying to use that for political purposes.
Governor, one of the AP studies that course parts that have been listed as concerning is the topic of movements for black lives. Can you describe what about that is concerning, as some people are calling black history inferior?
Is that part of the? So if you read actually what's in there, they're advocating things like abolishing prisons. Now that's a radical political position. You're free to take that in your own life. I don't think very many people would think that would actually work. But how is that being taught as fact to be able to do that? And I also think it's not fair to say that somehow abolishing prisons is somehow linked to like black experience, and that's what black people want. I don't think that's true at all. I think they want law and order, just like anybody else wants law and order. So that is more of ideology being used under the guise of history, and we want to do history. That's what our standards for black history are. It's just cut and dried history. You learn all the basics, you learn about the great figures. And, I view it as American history. I don't view it as separate history. We have history, a lot of different shapes and sizes. People that have participated to make the country great, people that have stood up when it wasn't easy, and they all deserve to be taught. But abolishing prisons, being taught to high school kids as if that's somehow a fact, no, that's not appropriate.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the actual course framework and exam overview of the AP African American Studies program that was rejected by Florida. As you can see the contents here, but I want to scroll down all the way to the course framework. And the course framework here is you got the origins of the African diaspora here. And you have the practice of freedom, enslavement, and resistance. And then you have movements and debates. Now, of course, for me, I'm talking about just for me, the things that I have the problem with the most out of this that I've seen, and we're going to scroll down and look at this, is the black feminist movement, womanism, and intersectionality. What does that have to do with our history here in America? At all, matter of fact, the feminist movement has hurt our community. Intersectionality has hurt our community. This womanism crap has hurt our community because we was enslaved together. We went through Jim Crow together. We dealt with the black codes together, everything we did together. And then these people coming in trying to, you talking about gender warring. These people has the one that sparked off the gender war. And it's not a war. It's an ideological differences. But these ideological differences is based off of, white supremacist involvement in our, family structure. They have another section here talking about weekly instruction for Black identities. And then, of course, like I said, in this video, I'm not going to take the time to go through the whole thing. I could possibly do that on the podcast. But right now, we don't really do that type of long form. Not that long, this is a live stream or something like that. But Black women's rights in education. Once again, we were always together. So this is that Democrat trying to cause more issues and problems. Because see what the Democrats do. They kind of do the rat poison strategy. In other words, rat poison is actually good corn, but it's a percentage of the strychnine that's in it that kills, the rodent, right? And this is what they do to us. They give you a bunch of good stuff talking about, Civil War in Black communities, slavery and resistance and all this. And then they'll slip in all this other stuff. Now let's go down here. Of course, violence of white supremacy. Why would we be against that? But let's go here. See, here we go. Black suffrage and women's rights. You understand this sort of thing? Now, if we go down here a little bit further, right here, where it says instructional focus, migrations, Pan-Africanism, and Black internationalism. Okay. I don't know why in a African American studies course you're talking about the Afro-Caribbean migration, even though I know people did immigrate here, but why do we need to focus on that? Now, Marcus Garvey and the UNIA, okay, that's part of stuff that we definitely is our history. Marcus Garvey, you got the Pan-African Congress. It's interesting. Even though I believe in connecting with the continent and all that, but when you're trying to focus on our history here, I'm just curious about who really put this fully together. But you continue to go down here and the civil rights movement, the Black power in the arts. But this is my main issue that I had more so than anything else. As you can see here, one topic, the Black feminist movement and womanism, African American women's history and a meta language of race, Black feminist literary thought. Then you continue to go down here, Black queer studies. Yeah, this is what they're pushing in this AP African American Studies course. See, and then post-racial racism. What the hell is that? And colorblindness. You know what I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen? This is why we must educate our own kids, because of this stuff right here. And we are crazy if we let them educate us. We are crazy. Not them, we are. So you heard what Ron DeSantis has said. He said about the queer studies thing, what they got to do, or queer theory, he said, what they has to do with Black American history. I'm 100% right on that. I'm not saying Ron DeSantis is a fan of the Black community. I'm not saying Ron DeSantis is doing us any favors. Not saying that whatsoever, right? But I will say, and actually you heard my issues with it, all the feminism, womanism, all this, throwing all that mess in there. Basically, the Black man is non-existent, keeping the gender war stuff going on, talking about that has nothing to do with our history and community. Nothing. If I was a governor of Florida and I went through that, I would have rejected it based on what I had an issue with, or I would say, nope, take that part out, take that part. This is what has to do with our history. But I'm a Black man and I know my history and I know what it is, because see, I can tell you right now, and like I said earlier in that clip, we know good and well the Democrats wrote that. We know that. Because that's what they like to do. They like to push everything that's against us being together. Because when you're pushing this feminism, womanism, intersectionality, when you're pushing all that, that has nothing to do with our history. That has nothing to do with the fight that we had since slavery all the way up to now. all that other mess, sexuality and all the other stuff that has nothing to do with us getting free. Nothing. So I would have rejected it. I would have rejected it. So in this story, I support Ron DeSantis for what he done. Yes, I support it because when even if he would just left that other throwing in, when it comes to kids, throwing in all that mess about queer theory, no. That has nothing to do with our history. I've studied a lot of our history, and that is not a central theme of our history. Our central theme is battling white supremacy. That is a central theme of our history. Our central theme of our history is upward mobility, sabotage. You could talk about that. You could talk about all the great inventions black people have created that has innovated America and why America is still at the top. You could talk about all of that. You could talk about all our freedom fighters. That's fine. You can discuss the real history. And realistically speaking, black history is American history. That's correct. Because you remove black history, you remove American history. And you heard him clearly say that black history must be taught in Florida schools.
In Florida, our education standards not only don't prevent, but they require teaching black history, all the important things. That's part of our core curriculum. This was a separate course on top of that for advanced placement credit. And the issue is we have guidelines and standards in Florida. We want education, not indoctrination. If you fall on the side of indoctrination, we're going to decline.
Because I can understand if you said that no black history can be taught in Florida schools. Then I'll definitely have a different video at that point. But with this particular course, I'm with him. But at the same time, we need to be teaching our own history. We need to be teaching our own history. And nothing will stop you from teaching our own history. You can do that. Every last one of us can get on the internet and start a podcast. You can start a YouTube channel, Facebook show, whatever you want to do, Instagram, whatever, and teach our history if you want to teach it. You don't need a building. You don't need anything. But let me know what y'all think about, Ron DeSantis. Listen, they didn't want to tell the real story. They didn't want to put out the full story why it was rejected. The narrative was Ron DeSantis, he don't like black people, and that's why he rejected it. That was the narrative. We need to look into things sometime. It's the same thing when they talked about that the parental choice bill they had, but they was calling it Don't Say Gay. And then once you actually go through it, like, oh, wait a minute, this actually makes sense what they're talking about. That's why we actually have to take the time to go read for ourselves, go look into things for ourselves as black people, and not be used by the media and the Democrat Party as a weapon against others. Because they love to use us as a weapon, but they're not telling us the truth, because no matter what, they both sides of white supremacy, but that one side of white supremacy likes to use black people as an attack dog, but yet they do nothing for us.